one of the engineers here at Stern-Williams. Today I'm going to show you how to fix one of our issues with our valves, that they stay on all the time and they won't shut off. So here is the system that you've shown us that you have inside one of our shower towers. So this consists of a main water line coming in, two of our Medcraft valves with their associated lines going out to the nozzles, and two of our buttons that are attached to our valve. So first, this will be hanging up inside of your unit. So first thing first, that we need to get these two valves outside of your fountain or your shower tower. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our buttons, which will be mounted on the inside of your tower. And so you see that we have this simple hex piece here. You are simply going to unscrew it. Until it becomes loose. So this will stay inside of your shower tower, and we want this hose separated. And you'll do that with both of your buttons. So then, after that is complete, you're going to come over to our two valves here. So what we want to do is we want to disconnect these water lines from these valves so we can take them out of the system. And they made this very simple by using these simple clips. So as you can see, there is a metal clip in between these two connections. So you want to get a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, and what you'll simply do is put the screwdriver underneath the pin, in between the pin and the plastic. And what you'll want to do is these have a tendency to come flying off. So what I like to do is put my thumb over it and slowly pry it out until it pops out. And then once it's to this point, you can just simply grab your finger and pull it off. You want to hang on to these and make sure you do not lose them. And so now we're going to do that with our other three connections here. And so now we have separated our two valves and our two buttons, and we can take them out of our fountain, our shower tower. Okay. So now that we have our two valves out of our system, we want to separate these two. And so as you see, there's a simple connection in between the two down here. So we'll just do the same thing that we did on the inside. We'll put our screwdriver underneath, in between the pin and the plastic, put our thumb over, slowly pry up, so it pops out, and remove the pin. So now you can just simply pull them apart, and you have two separate valves. Okay, so now I will show you how to open up this valve and do the repairs that we need to ensure that they'll flow correctly. Okay, so as you can notice that we have our four screws here that go all the way through, and you have your four nuts that are on the bottom here. So you're just going to go around and unscrew these screws while making sure, holding your nut so it does not fall out and you lose it. Make sure you keep track of these nuts, as they can get lost very easily. You're simply going to unscrew until your nut comes loose. And then I'm going to do this on the three other screws here. Okay, so now that we have our screws taken out, you can notice that this will start to loosen up. So we have three components of our valve. We have our water chamber section, we have our mechanism section here, shown in the light, and then our top black section is our air valve chamber. Okay, so as you're taking this apart, you want to make sure and keep, for this repair, you'll want to keep the air and the mechanism section together, and you'll simply pull apart and separate this water chamber section. Just simply will pull apart. So we will set this aside for now. Make sure and keep those two pieces together. And we're just going to focus on our water chamber section here. Alright, now that we have our water chamber separated from our air and mechanism chamber, we're going to take out our diaphragm here. You simply just lift it up and separate those two. Alright, so we want to make sure that this piece is completely clean and clear of debris and buildup. So what we're first going to do is we're going to separate, as you see, we have a plastic or a rubber diaphragm around here, and we also have a plastic poppet here in the middle. So what you want to do is separate those two by simply pulling this out and over the poppet. Separate those two. Alright, so now I will set this aside, and you'll want to clean off any kind of buildup and just make sure there's no buildup, and make sure it's all just on top. Make sure you get this as clean as possible. So now that we have that all cleaned off, you'll have your two piece here. It's okay if they're still wet, that will be perfectly fine. So you'll have your two pieces. So you want to take your poppet with your 3 prongs here, and you'll want to take your diaphragm in this orientation with the flanges facing up toward you. So what you simply do is slip it over the center circle over those prongs, and then you will pull. So you can see it's over our base here right now. So what you want to do is take your diaphragm and pull it outwards while pushing it down, and you want to slip it underneath that base of the prong. So you want to do that all around the edge, pulling out and pushing down and slipping it under until you have that done all the way around the edge. As you can see, it is now slipped underneath the base of those prongs. And to ensure that you have it on correctly, you'll just simply grab underneath with your thumb and spin it around. And you can see that it's staying underneath there. So that means it's on there correctly. Okay, so now you can see we have our 3 prong base all back together, everything. So we want to ensure there is a tiny hole inside of our poppet here that goes through to the middle of these prongs here. That is what actually seals, opens and closes your valve. So you want to make sure that that is clear of debris. So to make sure that that's clear, we're going to take, you can either do this with compressed air or with just blowing it out. So I'm going to take the nozzle of our compressed air, put it in between those prongs, and simply just blow it out, make sure there's no debris in there. You can simply do this just by blowing as well. So just want to make sure that that is clear, to make sure it's not blocking up our seal, to make sure our valve works correctly. We will flip it over, make sure this piece is on top, and we'll insert the 3 prongs into the center here. And make sure it's sitting flush with your water chamber base here. As you can notice on our mechanism chamber, we have also this metal disc here. It may fall out while cleaning this cleaning process and repair process, but it should stay in. But if it does fall out, as you can see, we have this metal disc and a spring in here. So there is a magnet on the other side here that will hold this spring in. But if it falls out, you want to make sure before putting this all back together, you take your metal spring and you insert it in the indent in the middle here, and it should be magnetized, so it'll sit in there nicely. So now we'll look at the metal disc. Okay, so here we have our metal disc. So we're going to clean this off as well, just to make sure that there's no debris. Okay, so that looks a lot better than it did before. Okay, so if you can notice on your disc, we have the disc and then we have this plastic piece in the middle. There are 2 sides to this. So if you can notice, one side, which is this top side here, has a larger area than the other side. So this is our small side, and this is our larger side. When placing this back in, you want to ensure that your large side is down towards the water chamber. So what I'll do is, in this orientation, I'll take my air, my mechanism chamber. I will insert this so that the small side is facing towards the air and mechanism, and the large side is facing down towards the water diaphragm. So large side going down towards the water. So I will send this in, and the magnet should grab it, and now it is sitting in there. So when you put this back in, you want to make sure that you have it in the same orientation that you took it apart. So you have your outlet, which is marked by this arrow on the bottom of your base, is facing out away from your air hose here. So you'll take your water diaphragm, your water chamber, and insert it back on, putting those screws back in those 4 holes. Alright, so now we will take our nuts that we held onto from earlier, and as you'll just go around holding the screw down and inserting it into the slot for the nut on each corner. And you'll just want to hand tighten these for now. So just hand tight to hold them together. And so I'll go around and do that on all of the 3 other corners here. Alright, so now that we have those all hand tight, we want to tighten them and torque them down so we create a good enough seal in our air chamber. So you'll want to start in one corner and try with your Phillips screwdriver to get as tight as you can. We want to make sure that there is a good seal, but make sure you do not strip the screw while doing this. So you want to get as tight as you can in one corner, and to ensure that it seals correctly all around, you want to go in a star formation. So since I started with this corner, I will go across diagonally and tighten this corner next. Okay, so now your valve is repaired and back together. So now what is left is to put it back inside your fountain. You'll have these on the outside, and you'll want to take these and simply, with your connector here, just simply push them back together. And you'll kind of feel a little tension, compression when you're pushing these back together. So make sure that they stay. And then you'll take one of your metal pins here, and as you can notice, there are 2 slots on the edge. So what you'll want to do is you want to make sure that these is pushed together as much as possible. So I'll hold them with my hand, and you want to take your pin. So you want to take your pin and put it on either of those, both of those slits there. So it's shown there. And then you will simply push the pin in until you hear a click. And that means that you've connected your 2 valves together. They're simple, easy connections. Alright, so then now this is ready to go back inside the fountain. So you'll simply hold it back up in, and you'll take your 3 water lines. We'll start off with our main water line going, and now your water lines are all hooked up. And last thing, our buttons that are mounted inside of our fountain or shower tower. You want to simply take your black air line and line up this metal or this plastic tip with the center of your screw hole here. So you want to line them up, make sure that is in the middle, and you'll simply screw this black hex piece back onto your button. And you want to screw it on until it's completely bottomed out or flush. And just get that as tight as you can, hand tight. And you'll perform this with your other button, and that will complete putting your system back together. I will just touch on one more thing, that you'll have your timing mechanisms here on your 2 valves. So the way that these timing mechanisms work, if you notice there's a plus and a minus, if you turn in the counterclockwise direction with you can simply use a flathead screw in here. You turn in the counterclockwise direction, you will increase the time that it stays open before shutting off. And if you turn in the clockwise direction, I got that mixed up. Yes, if you turn in the clockwise direction, you will increase the time that the valve will stay on. If you turn in the counterclockwise direction, you will decrease the time that the valve stays on for each press. You want to ensure that these screws are never unscrewed all the way. I will show that here just so you know what you're looking for, not to unscrew it. As you can see, you want to make sure that your screw never pops out of that hole in there. That means that you have it unscrewed too far, and that's where you'll start having issues with the valve staying on too long. And vice versa, you want to make sure that the screw is not too far down. So I will show that here. So as you can see how far down that is in that cavity, you want to make sure that your screw is not screwed all the way down very tight. And that also will cause issues with your valve staying open too long. Alright, so that concludes the repair of our simple shower tower system with 2 Medcraft valves to repair the valve staying on too long or won't shut off. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us here at Stern Williams, and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you.